Hey, Falcons NFL fans. Welcome to another episode of NFL's Jocks and Pigskins with Tom Pollen. I'm Dave Holcomb. Chris not with us today, but he is always with us in spirit.
Absolutely.
Sorry we're starting a little bit late today, but we're trying to get our ducks in the row with all of what's going on in NFL, not really NFL free agency yet, but NFL free agency speculation, NFL Combine, of course, going on this week. And I think we're going to spend most of today, honestly, not talking about the incoming rookie class and the workouts that are happening, but I have had my focus on what GMs have been saying and what trade talk we're getting out of the combine. It's a time of the year where everybody comes to one area and media have an opportunity to ask follow-up questions for the first time to coaches and GMs since the end of the season. But it's also an opportunity for GMs to get together and talk about some trades and propose ideas, whether or not any of them come to fruition or, we'll see. But it's a time that GMs can begin, proposing things that may end up happening.
Yeah, I mean, this is where the groundwork is laid for a lot of the deals that happen before the draft and after the draft. So, because you're right, everybody's there. All the coaches are there. All the GMs are there. Everybody who's a mover and a shaker in the NFL is down in Indianapolis right now.
Yeah.
And a lot of what they're doing, is judging the prospects. But, there's plenty of us behind the scenes talk about, what are you going to do? What do you think we're going to do? What if we had this player up for trade? And a lot of that is being established behind the scenes at the moment.
Or up in Indianapolis for us in Atlanta.
Down in Indianapolis for me.
Yeah, right. But today should be a really fun show. We're going to talk about quarterback possibilities for the Atlanta Falcons. There's two names that are really starting to heat up around the league, and other teams have been connected to those two quarterbacks as well. But it seems like the last couple of days, the Falcons have been a team that's been floated as a leader for one of those two quarterbacks. One of those guys being Justin Fields, the local kid, went to Georgia from the state, and has played for the Chicago Bears the last 3 seasons. And we'll talk about what the Falcons will have to give up to get Fields in a trade. There has been some speculation about what his trade value is, and he's not available in free agency like some of these other guys have to trade for Justin Fields and likely, again, pick up his 5th-year option, which we discussed last week a little bit. We'll discuss again today. But should be really fun. Next hour, talking quarterbacks and a little bit of the NFL Combine.
Well, there's a lot you can talk about as far as maybe the Falcons trading up and getting one of the college quarterbacks that are coming out. Because this, unlike, the year when Kenny Pickett came out and it was kind of, thin on college quarterbacks, we got a lot of college quarterbacks that scouts are high on, and you never know.
Yeah, I think, we know the big 3 names, and then there's question marks around the guys that are coming, that are projected to go after those top 3 guys. J.J. McCarthy, question about his arm strength, or can he run an offense not geared towards the running game and playing great defense on the other side of the ball. I think he's answering some of those doubters, though, in the NFL Combine. From what I've read, he's done very well, or I guess he's going to throw today. But a lot of people are saying that he's going to show off his arm strength and do well in that. And then another guy, Michael Penix, is a kind of a wild card.
So, you got your obvious 3, and the fact is, will the Falcons use draft capital to trade up to try and get one of those 3? Of course, you're rolling the dice. It's a college quarterback coming out. You don't know. Fields, at least you have film on. You know what Fields can do. And Kirk Cousins has been around for a while. You know exactly what Kirk Cousins is if you're bringing him in. So there's a reason for speculation for all of it. Now, how it ends up, we're not going to find out for another couple of weeks until the league year starts, but it's heating up like crazy. The rumors are just wild. This is why I call it the silly season. Yeah. Because about 95 to 99% of the stuff you hear really isn't, it's just speculation. It's things people are throwing out there that they hope will get them some clicks, get them some reads, and that's about what you can expect. But some of this silly season seems to be coming down to some very, very specific topics as far as how the Atlanta might play this going forward.
Today's show is brought to you by Prize Picks. Download the app. When you do, use our promo code ASU. That gets you a 100% match on your first deposit up to $100. Great way to support the show, to support our channel, Atlanta Sports Unlimited. And it gets you some free money to play with in Prize Picks. Not NFL season anymore, but there are other sports available in Prize Picks that you can play around with until football rolls around again in August.
Remember, you got Major League Baseball futures out there. So, there's still options. And, NCAA is coming up, for crying out loud. It just amazes me how fast this stuff comes around. You got the NCAA tournament you could start figuring out and going on to Prize Picks and play around with.
Pretty sure you can do NCAA games that are today. You don't have to wait for the tournament.
Oh, sure. But it's just amazing how quickly, these events keep rolling out. We just got done with the Super Bowl. Now we're heading into the NCAA tournament. We'll have baseball season going soon, and
it helps that
it happens a lot faster than it used to.
What's that?
I say it happens a lot faster than it used to.
Well, it helps that the Super Bowl is on Valentine's Day now. So, used to be in December. Original Super Bowl was in December.
Yes, that's true. Right.
We already got some comments rolling in. Thanks for joining us this morning. The rumors are driving me nuts, says Jason. He just wants to know who it is, but I guess I'll be waiting for a little bit.
Yeah, Corey Jason, that's pretty much the case.
Yeah, Corey says this is worse than the Lamar Jackson stuff last year. Yeah, Lamar Jackson was pretty bad, but I think this is worse. The need for quarterback is higher now than it was a year ago for the Falcons.
Well, it is. Because we're not going into the season thinking that Desmond Ridder is a possibility.
Yes.
So last year we went into the season thinking Desmond Ridder could be the guy. Now, throughout as the season played on, we saw what happened. But that's why there wasn't as much speculation last year. This year, it seems like a lot of the feeling is if the Falcons can get that quarterback, this is a division that's ready to be taken. And, once you make the playoffs, all bets are off. You can do some damage. So, but you got to get there. And I think they're a quarterback away from at least getting there.
Yeah, well, not just that, but I just think people love talking about quarterbacks. They're the high-profile position.
Well,
it's what
that's true.
It's what drives the entertainment value of the league and in the media too. So that's what people want to discuss, and it's the biggest. It's what the average fan knows. They always know the names of the quarterbacks. So I want to go back to Jason's point about you'll be waiting a little bit. Maybe not though, because we had this quote from Bears general manager Ryan Poles this week, Tom, at the NFL Combine. He did say, it depends on what opportunities pop up when he was talking about Justin Fields and the possibility of trading him. But then he went on to say, no, I would love to know as soon as possible. I would love to know, but I know that's not how the process works. Sure, before free agency would be good. Like I said, I'm also taking if we were to do something with Justin, I want to do right by him. And I know, again, living in that gray space, we would want to do something sooner rather than later. Well, free agency starts in like 10 days, less than 10 days.
Yeah.
It's March 2nd. Free agency officially starts March 13th. The tampering period starts on March 11th.
I love the tampering period.
Right. And so basically free agency starts on March 11th.
Yes,
You're
I know.
Gonna, be hearing about guys signing with teams in 9 days. So
yeah,
that's not a lot of time to see if the Bears are going to make a move with Justin Fields.
No, it's not. And they don't necessarily have to. Again, they don't have to do anything until they get closer to the draft. And you not only have the Falcons playing for that top draft choice, the Bears can also drop back a couple of spots, still get a quarterback, still trade Justin Fields, drop back a couple of spots and keep Justin Fields and go for somebody else like a wide receiver to pair with him and DJ Moore. But so there's so many balls in the air right now that it's I could write 10 articles this next week about excuse me, still getting over the flu, so I still have a little congestion in here. But I can write 10 articles over the next 10 days, and each one give you a different scenario. That's a realistic scenario. I'll be speculation, but they're all realistic scenarios. That's the problem.
So you don't think the Bears have even decided if they're going to keep Justin Fields or not?
There are a lot of media people in Chicago who have decided that the Bears have decided they won't keep Justin Fields.
That they won't.
Right. They will not.
Yeah.
That they are going to go with Cunningham. They will trade out of they will keep the number one pick, take Cunningham, trade Justin Fields, get some extra draft capital for this season, and go on from there. Excuse me again. I'm sorry, folks. As I say, getting over the flu, and it's been rough. But you know, the Patriots want that pick too. The Commanders want that pick. So I could see either team wanting to trade up with the Bears, and you know, the more teams you have involved in wanting that pick, the better the haul you're going to get. So that's another part of this that needs to play out also. It's not just the Falcons and what the Falcons can do. It's what the Bears decide to do with that number one pick. And if they trade out of it and let somebody else get Caleb Williams, and as I say, there are teams that need him and need a quarterback and would like to trade into that top spot. Or, you know, do the Bears have something else in mind? It's driving me crazy too. Jason, I'm with you. It's just ridiculous how many reports you have coming up about this.
So it sounds like you think that what they could receive for the number one pick versus what they could receive for Justin Fields is a factor in their decision. It's not simply we'd rather have Caleb Williams over Justin Fields, and that's why we're trading Justin Fields. It's actually partially, Justin Fields isn't worth as much on the trade market as the number one pick. We can get more back for our team if we trade number one versus Fields. Is that a factor?
I do think that's the case. I do think, because I don't know if they can get a one for Fields. I think the best they can do is get a two for Fields and maybe a pick this year, pick next year. I think they can get a better haul for the number one pick if it's the Patriots. If it's a number of teams bidding for that top spot and they want one of those quarterbacks. They want Caleb Williamson. So, you know, the more teams that are bidding, the better off you're going to be. And I think the Bears are going to have more teams bidding. You got the Cardinals, Patriots, Commanders. Cardinals, are they going to stay with Kyler Murray? So, you got 3 teams bidding for that number 1 pick. You're going to get more of a haul. But that also means that the Bears are going to keep Justin Fields. And that's not a guarantee either. That's the choice. The Bears trade back and probably take one of the rookies that are coming out to play for a year behind Fields, or try to get a wide receiver that they can pair with Fields.
You think there's a scenario where they take the quarterback and keep Fields the starter?
There is a scenario, yes. And some people have talked about it in Chicago. Some people are saying that it doesn't necessarily have to be that Fields goes anywhere this year, and that the Bears could come up with one of the other possibilities, trade back to 2 or 3, depending on what Washington or New England offers, take one of those quarterbacks, and then pick a receiver at 9, because I think 9 is where they pick again.
Yes, I believe so, yeah. That's their actual pick, Carolina pick being number 1.
Right, so they could trade that pick, keep Fields, and take one of the rookie quarterbacks with that pick that they get, either 2 or 3, to sit behind Fields or compete with Fields, and then take a receiver at 9 to strengthen their receiver position. So that is a very real possibility too. And you can't discount it.
I think that would be crazy. I would not do that. I would move on from Fields, take what I can get for him, which, as you said, won't be a first-round pick. It could be multiple draft picks, though. Adam Schefter, it was more speculation than report, I would say, but he threw out the idea that they could get a 2 and a 3. That seemed to be the highest possibility. He also threw out a 2 and a 5, 2 and a 4. But you're looking at an early, well, depending on what team acquires it. But if it's the Falcons, you're looking at an early day 2 pick. Maybe you don't get a 3 in that scenario, but maybe you get an additional 5 or a.
Well, maybe you get an additional. Pick. Maybe you get an additional pick in 2025 from the Falcons.
Possibly, yeah. I think
so you get 2 picks, but 1 each draft. I could see that happening. I don't know if the Falcons want to give up 2 picks this year. They're a little slight on draft capital as it is. So, and you can't, at some point, you start giving up too many draft picks and your team gets old fast. And you don't have players coming in to replace, some of these guys that are starting to age out. You
don't have guys on rookie contracts that are
right. Again, that kills your salary cap.
Right.
And that's kind of what happened to the Falcons under Dimitroff.
Yeah.
Is they got stuck with a lot of bad contracts and no rookie contracts, and it hurt them under the cap. And that'll kill you. You don't want to give up too much draft capital. And the Falcons, I don't think, have a lot to spend. But I still think they can make that deal for Fields if it's a 2024 and a 2025 pick.
They don't have a lot of picks, but they have a lot of quality picks. 4 picks in the top 70.
Yeah.
79, top 80.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't give up 2 of those picks for Justin Fields, but they have that quality capital in the top 80, then a number 109 overall, and then 141 and 198 this year.
Yeah, so as I say, the possibilities add up, because what gets difficult for the Falcons is you don't know what the Bears are going to do. And that's a big question mark with how you look at the Falcons going into free agency and the draft. Because what are the Bears thinking? And then it comes down to what are the Falcons going to be able to do once the Bears do make their decision. So, and I'm sure Poles and Terry Fontenot have had plenty of conversations the last couple of days about this. I have no doubt that they've sat down and talked about this scenario.
USA Today's Tyler Dragon named the Falcons, Steelers, and Raiders as the 3 teams interested in Justin Fields. I think he had sources that said those 3 teams have at least engaged in some type of negotiation with the Bears. Now, I don't want to mock that report or anything, but I do think we blow reports like this out of proportion. It could very well be Ryan Poles and Terry Fontenot sitting at the bar after the combine last night, drinking some beers and talking about fun hypotheticals like you and I would do for our fantasy teams. And that becomes a report that the Falcons are interested in Justin Fields. I'm not denying that they are or aren't, but I do think these reports come out when there's just these GMs kind of spitball things that never really would happen, just kind of for fun or fun hypotheticals, whatever, just trying to gauge what the price would be. But the reason why I throw out that report, I don't know if there's a ton of competition for Fields. Let's assume he becomes available and the Bears want to trade him. I don't really see the Steelers doing that. I don't think the Steelers are a realistic spot for Fields. I know there's been a lot of speculation, but I think they're pretty dedicated to Kenny Pickett.
And so you don't think he eventually joins Jonnu Smith in Pittsburgh?
No. The Steelers are set at tight end, no doubt. And they're less set at quarterback. They only have Kenny Pickett on the roster. But we mentioned this last week. A team has to not only pay him $6 million for this season, which isn't very much, but then by May has to decide, are we picking up Justin Fields' 5th-year option?
Yes.
And if you're giving up a second-round pick, the answer to that question has to be yes.
Oh, it has to be yes. Yeah, you have to.
And I think the Falcons are a better fit to commit to that because I think it's very obvious there is no quarterback on their roster. There's no franchise quarterback in Heineke or Ritter. Pickett probably not, I think, at this point in terms of being a franchise quarterback. Definitely doesn't have a lot of upside like a Justin Fields. But could he still be a quality starter? Maybe. And I think that maybe is going to give the Steelers pause to making a big deal and financial commitment to Justin Fields. And I think you mentioned last week the Raiders shouldn't be a possibility because they have Luke Getsy as their new offensive coordinator. Getsy and Fields didn't really work out in Chicago. I mean, he got fired. So what is the match really there? And that leaves the Falcons the only team standing, according to Tyler Dragon, if we're eliminating those other 2 teams.
And it makes sense. That does make sense. That's a good argument. Because if he goes to Pittsburgh, you are committing to him not just beyond his option year. You really need to commit to Fields being your starter and being able to work with Arthur Smith and developing into the guy that you want to see him be. And that's the thing. That's a big commitment, and that's a big gamble. When you do have Kenny Pickett's shown some signs that he could be a guy.
Yeah.
He hasn't convinced anybody yet, but there are signs that he's got a great relationship with George Pickens. I mean, he seems to find Pickens quite a bit. So,
and you want to see what he is under an actual offensive coordinator. I think the Steelers made a huge mistake bringing back Matt Canada last year. It was basically a redshirt year for Pickett. You still don't know what you have in him because you didn't have a true NFL offense last year with Pickett. He got 1 game with Pickett and not having Canada as his offensive coordinator, and Pickett threw for over 300 yards. Yes. It was his best game of his career. Yes, so I'm not off the Pickett train yet, which would suggest their Steelers are not going to trade for Justin Fields. Gary agrees with me. And I think that actually is the point I'm trying to make overall. I know, a Bears fan wouldn't want to hear this, but without those two teams involved, if supposedly they have some interest, but if it's not serious interest, the Falcons can kind of swoop in here, and maybe they don't even have to go up with 2 for Justin Fields. Maybe it becomes a third, or a third this year and a conditional next year or something. If the price drops because there aren't any other obvious teams that are seriously interested in acquiring Fields. And I think the Falcons could benefit from that.
Yeah, absolutely. You make a great point. And that is true that, if the information, the information that you gave in that article sounds like it makes the
three teams.
Yeah.
The 3 top possible destinations.
Right.
Yeah.
And it really does make a case for the fact that Atlanta is the only real destination. And maybe that means you only give up a 3. And, you get away with that. Because if the Bears do decide they want to move on with Fields, I don't think they're going to be doing some high pressure negotiating. They're going to want to get something back, but they're also going to want to move on, clear it, and then move on with their next quarterback.
Right. And maybe it's a case of the Bears are presenting a front where they haven't made their choice yet at quarterback because they don't want the price for Fields to drop yet.
Yes.
Right? They're playing a game of chicken too, where they're trying to say, well, Fields isn't 100% available. Make me an offer that I can't refuse.
And see, that's the perfect term for it, Dave. Chicken. It is. You're playing chicken with all of this. And Gary had a point. There was a point hidden in Gary's comment that I wanted to bring up about maybe his agent is trying to boost his trade value. That happens a lot. Agents get involved in these things. Agents become leaks. Teams leak their own rumors.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be surprised if somebody, Ryan Poles went to one of his, lower end, somebody a couple levels down from him and said, leak this. You have these contacts, these guys know you. Go ahead and leak it. Let's see. You got a lot of general managers, a lot of agents, and they are leaking a lot of these stories to see what kind of reaction you get. And that's another problem going into this. That's another thing that makes it difficult to read this because, you don't know where the leaks are coming from.
Yeah, Brian has an interesting comment, but I'm going to have to push back on it, Brian. I haven't seen that. I have not seen that the Steelers have the best offer for Fields. I'm not even sure they have a concrete offer. There's been negotiations, I think, but it is lying season. That's true.
That's why, lying season, silly season. That's
and the latest today was from a reporter that I'm not too familiar with that said the Falcons were closing in on Justin Fields. So that's the closest that I've seen somebody, however you want to phrase it, making the best offer or closing in on possibly getting him. So that I think right now the momentum is Fields going to Atlanta more than he's going to Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I think so. And that seems to be where all the rumors are kind of swirling to is Atlanta. Now, that's the thing, Brian. I don't think anybody has leaked any offers. I don't think there's a solid offer out there where you can say, okay, the Falcons have offered this. Or
that's not unusual, right? This. We don't normally get offers that aren't accepted yet.
Right. And again, offers are leaked by agents because they want to see their player get the most that he can get. So a lot of agents will leak offers just to see if they can't up the ante a little bit. And a lot of people are staring at their cards, keeping their whole cards close to their chest and not really giving you an indication anywhere else of what they're thinking.
The only thing I've seen in potential what it'll take, what kind of offer it would take, is what we already talked about from Schefter. That's really the only thing I've seen as like, this is the offer, or this is the draft capital it will take to land Fields, and some other people from ESPN too that probably
Schefter is fairly well plugged in.
Yeah.
He might have the most contacts out of anybody, in the NFL media. For me, Schefter is pretty well cut into what's going on. Ian Rappaport, a lot of these guys have very good contacts inside organizations. They get drift of things, and when they say something, again, it may not be truly accurate because they may be getting fed information, but at least the information is coming from somewhere inside the organization. And that's kind of where you can cut the line between a lot of the NFL media online or, some of these big sites, the big sports sites, ESPN, NFL.com, where, reporters are actually bringing in something that's not something they plucked out of the air. And, wow, I can get another 1,000, page views if I write this instead of something else. It depends on where the info comes from.
I don't want to get on a Schefter rant, but he does more of what you're saying he doesn't do than he probably should. I probably should leave it at that.
Okay.
Jerry Dulac from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette had a great quote. He didn't say that this was about Adam Schefter. He just said he was basically talking about the media at large, that we're at this point where the smaller guys come up with rumors, speculation, because it's fun and because we don't have anything else to talk about. So this is what we're going to discuss.
Right.
And it's entertainment. But then guys at the top see that these are the rumors that people are talking about. This is the speculation that's driving the news cycle. And what way can I insert myself into that? The problem with that is people look at the top beat reporters in the NFL as news guys, not speculation.
Mm-hmm.
And when they insert themselves into floating things that they're really not sure if it would happen or not, or based on previous things from years ago. I mean, Schefter's report about why the Steelers might be interested in Fields, and then everybody went crazy and started speculating that it was going to happen, was that Mike Tomlin and the Steelers liked Fields coming out of college. How many teams liked Justin Fields coming out of college? A lot.
A lot of them.
A lot.
Yeah.
Who else the Steelers also liked coming out of college? Mason Rudolph.
Yeah.
So, are they going to re-sign Mason Rudolph, or are they going to trade for Justin Fields? Because they liked both coming out of college. So it's just kind of there's no one above the silliness, I guess is what I would say. And that's sad because there should be people raising the bar in sports reporting, and I don't think we really have anybody that's
no. It's everybody's trying to be first.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to be first so they can point at it and say, see, I'm the one who gave you this. And it ups their reputation. And then
right. And we have such short memories that when reporters are wrong, we forget. We don't remember. Right. I remember.
Yeah.
But nobody else can.
I counted on that all the time when I was writing. Yeah, I was wrong about this, but remember that I was wrong about it.
And I think that would make it a more healthy approach as well, I guess is the way to put it, is everybody can be wrong. even though we look at these guys and are like, well, he's got the best success rate in his reporting, whatever. That's true. He does, but it doesn't mean that he can't be wrong. It doesn't mean that there are instances where even the most plugged in guys get something inaccurate.
Going to my writing, I don't write out of pure speculation unless I have a reason, unless I see something that tells me that there's more. And that's the thing. You don't get a lot of people who do that, who look at it and try and be objective about it. And then say, and I know you do this too, Dave. I know you're not guilty of throwing everything out there to see what sticks. It's a matter of trying to be better than the crowd, put information that people can believe in front of you. Yeah, sometimes you're still wrong, but at least you're putting information that you believe in front of people. And if you're wrong, yeah, it happens. Everybody's going to be wrong about some of these things. So,
well, my big thing is if it's speculation, you need to make it clear I'm speculating. I'm not reporting that this is going to happen.
Right.
But it's a double-edged sword. And that's kind of what I'm saying, that like no one's above this. Like Adam Schefter's job should be only reporting what he knows. And when he dives into saying on a podcast appearance that he makes that, well, the Steelers liked Justin Fields 3 years ago, that's speculation. That's not something that it is something that's accurate and that he knows, but it doesn't really have any.
Makes no difference today.
Right. Exactly. And to suggest that
without saying it, he's trying to say without saying it that the Steelers are a possibility.
And that's what people took it as, and that's why I think that launched the Fields speculation to Pittsburgh a few weeks ago. That comment that that Mike Tomlin loved Justin Fields coming out of college.
Yeah.
So
Brian's gone into an interesting direction. I think maybe we can go here too, as far as which quarterback best fits the offense that the Falcons we expect the Falcons to run.
Yes. Ghost Peppers is weighing in on that as well. He said that I've seen more sources connecting the Falcons to Kirk Cousins than Justin Fields. Yeah. I mean, this is a moving target, Ghost Peppers. And as a guy that writes about a lot of speculation for other teams, not the Falcons necessarily, some on allfalcons.com, but some days people want to talk about one quarterback. The other day, and the next day or the next week, it's the chatters about that other quarterback, and no one really knows. So you're just kind of throwing out all the possibilities. And today it seemed like more Fields, but there are people still in the Cousins camp. Zach Klein of WSB Atlanta thinks that it's most logical that they go the veteran route. And I don't know if I should call this a report or not, but he was basically saying that he thinks Arthur Blank has told Fontenot in the front office to get a deal done with Kirk Cousins.
I saw that report. Yes, I did see that report. One of the things, again, it comes down to Zach Robinson. How does he want to run his offense? Who's he going to have as his receivers, and who he's going to be comfortable with as his quarterback running his offense? And to me, that's Kirk Cousins, because Cousins, he's coming off the Achilles injury, but he's healed. You can't look at these injuries like you did 10, 20 years ago. Medicine has gotten to the point where they can do these surgeries and heal these injuries and rehab these injuries a lot quicker than they ever could have. And you look at Cousins can still make all the throws. Cousins can throw guys open. Cousins can put touch on a pass and sail it over a defender's head into his wide receiver. Cousins can read. He's been in the league so long, he knows how to read. You're not going to throw much at Kirk Cousins that he hasn't seen. And to me, Kirk Cousins is actually the guy who makes sense for this offense, because I think he meshes with Robinson more. I think Robinson has to do more work with Justin Fields to get Fields to react the way he wants him to in certain situations.
In the short term, I absolutely agree with you that Kirk Cousins is the better option. Long term, I mean, Cousins is going to be 36.
Right.
So you're looking at a window of 2 to 3 years.
Yeah, 2 to 3 years. You got to get an understudy under him. And that's something else you have to think about. You do. I think if you can get Cousins, you need an understudy. It's kind of like what the Packers did with Aaron Rodgers and Jordan Love, or Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers, where these guys sit a couple of years and watch and learn how to read defenses and learn how to react. And in a way, I think if you can bring in Kirk Cousins and put a solid understudy with him, that's your ideal scenario for the Falcons this year.
And you're saying that Zach Robinson is the biggest impact or biggest influence maybe on whether the Falcons choose Cousins or Fields. I'm going to go back to the trade value. I think that's an impact is an influence as well. What risk reward, what price does Fields need to come down to in draft capital for the Falcons to then say, you know what, the long-term upside is worth that?
Yeah.
If it's a second and a third, no, I don't think it. I wouldn't do that. I would sign Cousins. But if it's a third round pick and a pick next year, or a later day 2 pick, I don't know how far it could fall. But we just talked about how the Falcons may be the only serious team interested in Fields. If that's the case, I don't know if Fields really can. If the Bears really can get a second for Fields. And again, at that point, or the question is, at what point do the Falcons say, hey, we like the upside with Fields more than the short term with Cousins?
Well, that's the decision Terry Fontenot is going to have to make. Do we like because Cousins is going to be quick reward. All right, Cousins is going to set you up to win.
There's nothing wrong with that.
No, he's going to set you up to win the NFC South in 2024, probably 2025 also, with the way this team is set up, with the way the contracts are set up. And, there's nothing wrong with that. As I've always said, and Dave, I've said this many times, you only can win the title that's in front of you. You worry about 2025 when 2025 rolls around. Right now it's 2024. You worry about winning in 2024. And that's kind of what you're looking at here. That's what Kirk Cousins will give you. And then you worry about your quarterback in 2026 again. And again, folks, fans, I'm sorry about the congestion, but I am getting over the flu. So, but I'm trying to keep as much of the congestion out of my voice until this is over. The main thing, I think, is whether the Falcons sign Cousins as a free agent or trade one of their second round or third round pick for Justin Fields. One of the important things is it leaves that pick at number 8 in the Falcons camp. And I love Dallas Turner. I would love to see Dallas Turner on this defensive line.
Yeah. Larry Orange didn't mention Dallas Turner, but that's the advantage of, you would have that in either scenario, either quarterback,
right.
Basically not taking a quarterback in the first round this year and getting Cousins or trading for Fields. You have the opportunity to address something else at number 8. And my God, we've been saying edge rusher for years. Maybe finally this is the year that we get an edge rusher of the Falcons in the top 10.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I would love to see Dallas Turner here. But Then you got the question, if Cousins isn't available and they don't want to trade for Fields, then you have to trade up. You got to trade that number 8 pick. Then you have to get up into the maybe not Caleb Williamson range, but get yourself into the, you're not going to get, as I say, you're not going to get Caleb Williamson, but maybe you get Drake May, maybe you get Jaden Daniels. And I've heard a lot of good things about Jaden Daniels, about his work ethic and how he seems to always be the first player in the locker room every day and studying film, working with his receivers. So I've heard a lot of great things about Jaden Daniels. I've heard some things about Drake May. Everybody has weaknesses in their game. You got to decide if you can live with those weaknesses or improve those weaknesses. That's what it comes down to also. So in the event they don't get Cousins or Fields, you've got to draft up and you've got to get one of these guys that are coming out that are considered a top prospect moving into 2024, somebody you can develop.
Well, I'll throw out another scenario. What about JJ McCarthy? What about JJ McCarthy, the Michigan quarterback? Had a great record at Michigan. There are doubts about his arm strength. I mentioned this at the beginning of the show. Also, can he run? Can he be the reason why the team wins as opposed to the running game and the defense, which really is what carried Michigan to that national championship this year? But I've seen McCarthy rising on draft boards and mock drafts. I've seen scouts that I trust or Falcons analysts that I trust say that McCarthy's arm strength is a lot better than what people are saying. And he's going to throw today at the combine. So I'm going to have my eyes on what he's going to do today, because he should be available at number 8. And maybe that's, I think if we said a month ago, drafting McCarthy at number 8, we would say huge reach. Don't do that. But I don't know, by in another 6 weeks or so, McCarthy at number 8 might be a nice pick.
Sure, it might be. One of my issues with throwing at the combine, though, is I remember 2 or 3 years ago, I forget the exact year, but I was watching quarterback day and I was watching Malik Willis throw dimes down the field and just really killing it and looking like he knew what he was doing. He had an accurate arm, and came into the league and has busted big time.
But he hasn't busted because of his arm, though, right? He's been busted. He hasn't been playing because he can't make a decision for his life back there.
Well,
and I think McCarthy has proven it. I mean, McCarthy didn't play at Liberty. McCarthy played at Michigan. He played Big Ten schedule. He went through the college football playoffs and won a national championship. I think his decision-making is probably further along than Malik Willis, which I'm not a quarterback guru, but I think that's probably the knock on him, not the arm strength. Or the reason why he's not having
I'll say so, but again, I come back down to you don't want to put too much into the combine either. The combine, if somebody has a great combine, that should send you back to the tape. That shouldn't necessarily mean he's a better prospect.
But my point with McCarthy, though, is if the only reason why you're not considering taking him at number 8 is his arm strength, and then his arm strength looks good at the combine, isn't that kind of
And this is what I say. Then you go back to his film at Michigan and you look at the throws he did make. And you reevaluate what you thought about him as a quarterback at Michigan. It's not necessarily saying that he can't do it. It's just saying, okay, look at his arm strength, look at what he's doing. We got to reevaluate, and we got to take more looks at McCarthy and what he did under Harbaugh at Michigan. So you're not saying that you can't put any stock in what you see at the combine. It just means you have to reevaluate where you came in with this player. Maybe this player is better than what you originally thought. You go back to that film, you say, all right, he's seeing his receivers, he's leading his receivers, doing better at this. Maybe we were a bit wrong on him. Maybe he is more NFL ready than we thought.
I wasn't laughing at you, Tom. I was laughing at Jason's comment, and that could be an issue with this situation. McCarthy didn't throw very much in college, and I think maybe people think, whether it's right or wrong, I don't know, but people think that he can't do it or doesn't have the arm strength, doesn't have these things you're looking at an NFL quarterback because he wasn't asked to carry the team. He wasn't asked to throw it all over the yard for Michigan to win games. It wasn't the Big 12. They were playing a more old school type of football, and they won the national championship doing that. So you can't fault them for that strategy, but maybe it's hurting J.J. McCarthy at this point in terms of his draft stock. Probably
is. I've seen some scouts that are very high on McCarthy that think he can do it all. So, it depends on who you're seeing. Quarterback, it's just so difficult to evaluate. It's ridiculous to evaluate quarterbacks coming out of college. A lot of people are wrong as often as they're right.
Right, yeah.
I mean, everybody talks about how many people passed on Patrick Mahomes coming out of college. There was a lot of doubt about Mahomes' ability to be accurate, about the accuracy of his arm coming out of college. You knew he had a strong arm. You know it was accurate. Well, we've seen since then that he's a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Right.
But, and that's the thing. You see these guys coming out of college and you make a read and you say, all right, this guy is it. He can do it. But there's certain differences in the pro game that, some of these quarterbacks never pick up on. And it's tough to tell until you get them in your training camp and start teaching them offense at the NFL level, where you really know if this guy can do it or not. And that's the thing about drafting a quarterback instead of, signing Cousins or trading for Fields, is you already know what you have with them. You're not having question marks about this or that, or can he do this? We think he can, others think he can't. And it's just, I don't know how scouts make a living evaluating quarterbacks. It's just incredibly hard.
Well, I think I want to return to a point that Kelsey made last week. Kelsey Kramer, if you missed it, was a great guest last week from A to Z Sports. You can catch the replay on our channel, Atlanta Sports Unlimited on YouTube. She was a big advocate of the Falcons need to bring in a quarterback so they don't waste the talent they've accumulated at wide receiver and running back, all these pass catchers and tight end and Kyle Pitts. And I think that leads, if you follow that strategy, that definitely leads you to Kirk Cousins, I think, being by far and away the top choice, and then maybe Justin Fields second, at least somebody that's established in the league, not a rookie, so that you can utilize these pieces on offense sooner rather than later.
And Brian brought it up a little bit earlier that he doesn't think Justin Fields fits Robinson's offense as easily as Cousins would. Probably not, but I think Robinson would also adjust to Fields. And there's some arguments that Fields really didn't get very good direction under Luke Getsy when Getsy was his offensive coordinator. That there's still untapped potential there that nobody's seen because Fields is kind of was in an offense that didn't quite work as an NFL offense, where the scheme didn't quite fit his strengths, where the scheme was badly drawn at times.
Yeah.
So you do have that coming into the conversation. maybe Robinson can work with Fields.
Which is why it's even crazier to suggest the Raiders are a team that want Justin Fields because Luke Getsy is their offensive coordinator. Like, right. So what difference will it be?
They will not
than it was last year.
They will not take Justin Fields. That I will put that out there right now. Luke Getsy and Justin Fields will not work together next year. Not going to happen. He will not be with the Raiders.
And to that point, I didn't bring this up when you were talking about Arthur Smith with the Steelers, and I should have. Arthur Smith had a chance for Justin Fields 3 years ago to bring him to Atlanta. Yes, and I mean, I don't think Arthur Smith has ever publicly addressed why he didn't take Fields. He's obviously just only hyped up how much he liked Pitts and all of that. But let's be real. If you believed in the quarterback, you got to take the quarterback. No matter how great of a pass catcher star Kyle Pitts may or may not be, if you believe in the quarterback at that high in the draft, that's who you take.
Yes.
So to me, Smith was saying, I don't believe in Justin Fields.
Most important position on the field. If you got one that you believe in, you got to take him.
So I don't see why the Steelers then would say, well, we're going to hire Arthur Smith as our offensive coordinator and then trade for the quarterback that he didn't want 3 years ago. That doesn't really seem to make sense either.
Well, again, and Clo decides she wants attention now. She figured out she can jump up in my lap. So, it's difficult to say. Things change over a couple of years, though, too. So, maybe Atlanta's hit, they're looking at who they can get next year who can give this team a jump, who can make use of these offensive weapons they brought in.
Yeah, right.
That's what it boils down to.
Right.
Who is our best opportunity to make use of Bijan Robinson, Kyle Pitts, Drake London, and anybody else we bring in as a free agent, and or draft choice, and who can turn them loose better than they've been turned loose the last couple of seasons.
Yeah. Yeah. And in the short term, I think Kirk Cousins is the clear preferred option. He won't definitely be available. I mean, he's supposed to be a free agent, but there's rumblings that the Vikings want him back. So maybe he heads back to the NFC North. Maybe Justin Fields does as well, stays in Chicago. But those are probably the two most likely quarterback options other than the 2024 draft class for the Falcons. We think there are other free agent quarterbacks that are a possibility because, again, these first two guys may not be available. But I think these two, Fields and Cousins, are the top two choices along with the draft class.
My problem with the other free agent quarterbacks is they're all names we've heard before. These are guys who have made their circuit of different teams and guys who offensive coordinators said, well, give me that guy and I will fix him. I know what's wrong with him. I can fix him. And that's another thing you got to look at is offensive coordinators, head coaches who say, put him in our scheme, we can fix him. And to me, that's the rest of the free agent class of quarterbacks. It's not very deep. And, you can only wade in the shallow end as far as that goes and expect to get a quarterback that can play for this team, that can start for this team next year.
Marcel is throwing out Russell Wilson. We don't have time to dive into all of the Russell Wilson stuff. I don't think there has been as much connection between the Falcons and Wilson. Maybe some, but
I think there will be more once Wilson's contract is decided and Denver does release him. Because right now he's got a heavy, very heavy dead cap hit. And I don't think the Falcons would like to renegotiate that hit before they release him and put him on the market.
Well, yeah, they're not going to trade for him. They would sign him in free agency. Released.
But the Broncos would have to release him, but the Broncos don't want to swallow that hit either right now.
Well, it's the chatter all offseason has been they're going to.
Okay. I haven't heard that. I've heard that they've wanted to they've kind of wanted to rework the contract so they don't have to take as much of cap damage in 2024 as they currently are. So we'll see how that develops too.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of interesting language with Wilson's contract. I'll mention it briefly, and then we got to wrap up. Why I think I wouldn't put Wilson ahead of Cousins or Fields for the Falcons, but what's interesting about Wilson is you could sign him for a minimum contract if he's available in free agency. There is language in his contract that regardless of where he plays, he's going to make $40 million from the Broncos. If he signed a contract for more than $40 million, then the Falcons, if they signed him, would pay him the difference. Of if he signed for $45 million, they pay him. I think they would pay $5 million. But if they sign him for $5 million, $10 million, $30 million contract, doesn't matter. The Broncos are paying. He's going to make $40 million, and the Broncos are making up the difference, whatever it is. So the Falcons could sign him for league minimum. He still received $40 million with the vast majority of it coming from the Broncos. And that greatly helps your salary cap situation for 2024. You can only do it for one season because this won't be a scenario that's possible in 2025. But you're hyping up the Falcons as a real contender in 2024. And if the Falcons believe that and think they are a contender with Wilson, that's what makes him an option.
We don't have time to go into it today. All I can say about Russell Wilson, I don't think he's still the Russell Wilson we knew in Seattle. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, good summary. He definitely is not, as opposed to a Kirk Cousins who is still pretty much Pro Bowl level quarterback.
Yeah, he is. Yeah. Who could, as I say, still make all the throws and still lead an offense.
Thank you for joining us today. Today's show was brought to you by Prize Picks. Download the app. When you do, use our promo code ASU. That gets you a 100% match on your first deposit up to $100. So for some free money for you and a great way to support our show. You can also support us on YouTube, Facebook. Give us a like. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Atlanta Sports Unlimited. Follow all of our other videos there of Tom and I, but also of the other sports that we cover on the channel.
Absolutely. Love to see it. We love spending these Saturdays with you, whether you're here with us live or on the replay. So been a fun day, a lot of great talk, and everybody have a great week.